This is The First Century, a podcast devoted to stories from that influential period of history including Rome, Judea, Christianity, and more. I'm your host, Dr. Brian Schmisek. Get ready to go back in time and enter a world before computers, the stagecoach, the printing press, or even stirrups had been invented for horses. We're about to enter the first century. Episode 29. Flaccus deposed as governor of Egypt. Events in and around Caesarea Maritima. In Egypt, in the year 38, on August 31st, Caligula's birthday, Flaccus ensured that Jews were paraded through the city with insults and forced to eat pork, which violated Mosaic law. This, of course, continued to inflame the situation in Alexandria. Jews were being killed, entire families at a time, some by crucifixion and others by being burned alive. Alexandria was becoming unmanageable. Shortly thereafter, about the time of the Jewish Feast of Tabernacles, the Roman centurion Bassus arrived, having been sent by Gaius on one of the fastest ships with the task of removing Flaccus and installing a new governor of Egypt. Bassus arrived after only a few days, but made his late afternoon arrival discreet, keeping the ship in open water not far from Pharos, the lighthouse for the harbor of Alexandria. Not until evening did he enter the harbor. At that point, Bassus and his soldiers disembarked and entered the city. They came upon a Roman soldier in the city and asked him to take them to the commanding officer, as Bassus wanted to ensure that the local guard was aware of the plan and could provide additional soldiers should they be needed. But the soldier reported that his commanding officer was at a dinner party hosted by Stephanion, a freedman of Tiberius Caesar, and that Flaccus was there too. Bassus went quickly to the home and sent one of his soldiers into the party incognito to assess the situation. He learned that the entrances were not guarded, and there were only a few people dining, attended by about a dozen slaves. Immediately, Bassus ordered his men to rush the building. Flaccus and the rest of the dinner guests were surrounded before they knew it. When Flaccus saw Bassus enter the room, he was dumbfounded, but quickly perceived his fate. There was nowhere to run. The dinner guests were aghast, but unable to leave. Flaccus was led away under secure guard, and Gaius Vitrasius Pollio was appointed governor of Egypt. Word traveled quickly, and soon Jews from the city were in the streets celebrating and giving thanks to their God. Flaccus was brought under guard to Rome to face accusations of maiestas, or treason. When Flaccus arrived in Rome after an arduous early winter seafaring journey, he was immediately faced with accusations from two of his former servants who were now in the delightful position of seeing Flaccus as their inferior. Flaccus was found guilty, and his property forfeited to the princeps, as was standard in such cases, before he was exiled. The initial place of his exile was to be the rocky and generally uninhabited island of Gyaros, but due to the intercession of Lepidus, Gaius's best friend, the larger and more hospitable island of Andros, about 44 modern nautical miles from Athens, was chosen instead. Flaccus was sent in chains to the island of his exile, and upon seeing this island, Flaccus burst into a lamentation. He said, "Men, you who are my guards and attendants in this my journey, I now receive in exchange for the glorious Italy this beautiful country of Andros, which is an unfortunate island for me. I, Flaccus, who was born and brought up and educated in Rome, the heaven of the world, and who've been the schoolfellow and companion of the granddaughters of Augustus, and who was afterwards selected by Tiberius Caesar as one of his most intimate friends, and who have had entrusted to me for 6 years the greatest of all his possessions, namely Egypt. What a change is this! In the middle of the day, as if an eclipse had come upon me, night has overshadowed my life. What shall I say of this little islet? Shall I call it my place of banishment, or my new country, or harbor, a refuge of misery? A tomb would be the most proper name for it, for I, miserable that I am now in a manner conducted to my grave, attending my own funeral, for either I shall destroy my miserable life through my sorrow, or, if I'm able to cling to life among my miseries, I shall in that case find a distant death, which will be felt all the time of my life." After that lamentation, the soldiers left him on the island to his own devices and sailed back to Rome. As we heard in a previous episode, the apostles appointed 7 men to assist with the daily distribution, as some of the Greek-speaking members of the sect of the Nazarene felt that they were being slighted. We heard about Stephen, one of the 7, who was stoned to death during the interregnum after Pilate had been deposed. But another of the 7, Philip, had now taken up residence in Caesarea Maritima, the administrative headquarters of the Roman province of Judea, on the seashore of the Mediterranean. The city also had an aqueduct bringing fresh spring water from more than 10 miles away, and it boasted an amphitheater. Philip had 4 unmarried daughters, and both he and they believed the daughters had the gift of prophecy. That is, they could speak on behalf of the gods, or in this case, the God of the Judeans, the God of Jesus. With Stephen now dead, Philip was only too aware of the challenges he faced in proclaiming that Jesus of Nazareth was God's anointed, the Messiah. Though Jesus had been crucified, and thus considered cursed by God as he was hanged on a tree, Philip had a different understanding. He believed that Jesus was in fact the fulfillment of God's promises to the people. He maintained that Jesus was God's own son. Philip's daughters were also fervent believers. He traveled throughout Judea and Samaria, even meeting a eunuch of great authority from the court of Candace, the queen of Ethiopia. Philip explained how Jesus fulfilled the sacred writings of the Judean people. The eunuch returned to Ethiopia having been baptized, after formally stating his belief that Jesus was the Messiah, the Son of God. It was also in Caesarea Maritima that a Roman centurion by the name of Cornelius lived. He was a God-fearing person who prayed and gave money to the poor. He had the occasion to meet Simon Peter, who told him about how Jesus had been anointed by God with the Holy Spirit and with power. Cornelius and his entire household believed this message, and they were baptized by Simon Peter as well. This was significant because Cornelius, as a Roman centurion, was certainly not Jewish. Could the message of Jesus apply to these Gentiles as well? Next time, we'll turn our attention to Syria and learn more about the growing sect of the Nazarene.